Discover the heartwarming moment. CEO's life-changing dinner reveals his pregnant ex-wife as a catalyst for change. Max Thompson stood before the mirror, adjusting his tie, yet the reflection staring back at him felt foreign. A prominent CEO in the vibrant suburb of Ohio, he was supposed to embody success and aspiration. But the accolades, the luxury, even the cheers of his community couldn't fill the yawning void inside him. Thoughts of Sarah, his high school sweetheart, tugged at his heart. They had built a life together once, but a bitter divorce had left them severed. She was now raising their son, Michael, alone. As he prepared for the largest charity dinner of his life, a storm brewed in his chest. The news that Sarah was pregnant again had shattered any sense of peace he had clung to. The evening shimmered with elegance. Pristine tablecloths, soft golden lights, and laughter filled the air. Yet, the opulence only deepened Max's sense of isolation. The town considered him a shining example of what hard work could achieve, but underneath the applause lay an aching worry over Michael's feelings about his mother's new child. Would he feel displaced? Did he even have space for a new sibling? Max's mind spun as the image of Michael's bright smile crossed his thoughts, a stark reminder of the love he nearly abandoned long ago. As he approached Michael, he caught the boy standing awkwardly, his delight overshadowed by the weight of expectation. "Dad, is everything okay with Mom?" Michael's voice trembled, eyes filled with a mix of joy and fear. In that moment, Max was taken aback. He had envisioned a triumphant reunion, but instead found himself grappling with his inadequacies as a father. I hope so," Max stammered, guilt clawing at his throat. How could he reassure his son when he felt so unsteady himself? "Everyone's saying stuff. What if she likes the new baby more than me?" The words hung heavy in the air. Max felt a tightness in his chest. He couldn't bear to think of Michael thinking he was less than enough. It felt like a punch to his gut, the kind that reminded him of the sacrifices made for success. In his pursuit of the American dream, had he lost sight of what mattered most? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just then, the air thickened as Sarah entered the room, her guarded expression reflected the tension swirling within. They exchanged hesitant glances, and in that instant, a flash of their shared history ignited, illuminating the path of love lost. Every clumsy attempt at conversation revealed the cracks. A once happy family now strained, each moment an echo of decisions made long ago in the name of ambition. The evening dragged on under a heavy, unspoken weight. Max felt a growing urgency to mend what had been broken, but what could he say? Suddenly, he remembered the journal from his late mother's attic, the reservations of a life lived too meticulously. It called to him, promising revelations unspoken. With determined steps, he left the hall to uncover the truth that could shift everything. Pulsing with hope, Max rushed back, ready to seize the moment. But as he re-entered the scene filled with laughter and light, he realized the chance for reconciliation was precariously close to slipping away. The night was heavy with vulnerability and unresolved feelings. And just as he stood poised to speak, an unexpected voice rang clear, one that would forever alter their lives. Would he have the courage to face his past and embrace the uncertain future ahead? As Max stepped back into the hall, his heart raced. The laughter that had once filled him with iridescent warmth felt like a distant echo, alien against the backdrop of his swirling thoughts. Their eyes fell on him, and for a brief moment, the gathering paused. He could see them, friends, colleagues, even acquaintances gleaming with polished smiles, but they showed no semblance of understanding what churned inside him. Just beside Sarah was a man he didn't recognize, laughing softly and engaged in animated conversation. A spark of jealousy ignited in Max. Was this new partner the reason for Sarah's transformation? Would Michael view him as just a shadow of the past? He toyed with the thought, reports of his own invisible cliff edge looming large. Max. Sarah's voice cut through his reverie. There was tension in her tone, a plea not to create a scene. When their eyes met, they felt the weight of unasked questions. He opened his mouth but only a breath escaped, dry with emotion and unspoken words. Suddenly, laughter rippled through the crowd once more, an easy distraction from the storm unfolding in his heart. Max clenched his fists. It dawned on him that he was surrounded by people yet utterly alone in this moment. Why was it easier for others to laugh when he felt so close to drowning? Michael caught his eye, a flicker of concern etched in his little face, and it drew Max back. This was about his son, not his fears. With newfound determination, Max approached Michael, crouching to be on eye level. "You know your mom loves you, right?" His voice was steady, but doubt brewed beneath the surface. Michael nodded, his gaze shifting toward Sarah, who watched from afar. There was a moment of connection, a palpable understanding passing between father and son. Yet, the unasked question still hung heavy in the air: what if she loves the new baby too? Max let out a soft sigh as he felt the murmur of regret knotting in his chest. "Michael," he continued, "love is not like a pie. There's always enough to go around. You're special to her. Always. But what if the baby gets all her attention?" Michael's voice cracked, voice raw with childhood vulnerability. "What if I'm not enough anymore?" Max's heart ached. "That's the scary part about change, buddy. But you are more than enough." He leaned in closer. "You'll be an amazing big brother. Every moment you share, every laugh, it's yours too." Michael didn't reply but studied him intently, and Max wondered if the weight of his words was sinking in. With a deep breath, he straightened and turned toward Sarah, who still stood there, deceptively calm but unmistakably guarded. Each step felt heavier as he approached her. Guilt churned in his gut. He had been absent for so long. Memories of their intertwined lives flashed vividly, the laughter, the dreams, the heartbreak. "Sarah," he began, but words stumbled on his tongue. She glanced at him, the softness in her eyes mingled with bravado. "Max, I want to talk," he interrupted, urgency in his voice. "We need to clear the air for Michael." The room around them faded, the crowd moving like a backdrop to their tangled history unfolding again. "Why now?" she asked, her facade wavering. "Because I've been running. And I don't want to run anymore." There it was. That moment of truth. Would this confession lead to healing, or would it fracture their fragile peace? Before they could reply, the unexpected voice erupted again, calling from the crowded hall, shattering the fragile bubble surrounding them. "Excuse me, everyone. We have an announcement to make." Max's breath caught in his throat as he turned to see who had the power to shift their world once more. Was this the moment that would change everything? Max's heart hammered in his chest. The voice floated through the air like thunder, resonating beyond the party bustle, a familiar voice that used to carry whispers of dreams and orchestrate plans for the future. Curiosity momentarily stole his breath away, leaving him suspended in fear. He turned to see who it was. All eyes were directed toward the stage at the far end. It was Greg, the CEO of the company where Sarah now worked, his handsome face lit with a grin. Greg was charismatic, the kind of guy who drew people in effortlessly. Max had never viewed him as a threat until now. The crowd hushed as Greg cleared his throat, heightening the tension in the room. "Thank you all for being here tonight. It's a special occasion for us all." The guests leaned in, eager to catch every word. Max felt a knot of unease coiling tighter in his stomach. He shifted his weight, uncertain whether to flee or stay and discover what was unfolding. "Sarah," Greg called, his voice warm and inviting. "Why don't you join me up here for just a moment?" Max's eyes widened as Sarah hesitated, her surprise evident, then slowly moved toward the stage. The crowd parted like a sea, their collective anticipation rising. Their eyes met for a fleeting second before Sarah stepped under the spotlight. It was as though time had folded in on itself, bridging their past with the present. The presence of the new baby felt like a weight he couldn't ignore. Would this announcement change everything for good? "That's the woman who's changed my life," Greg said, holding Sarah's gaze, his deep brown eyes sparkling. Max felt a spike of anger mixed with fear. "Tonight, I'm excited to share some news that could change both of our lives and the life of our little one." Greg's smile widened, and he gestured toward Sarah's belly. Max's breath caught once more, realization hitting like a freight train. The unexpected announcement loomed large, shifting the very ground beneath him. Were they truly expecting a baby together? The bittersweet ache of betrayal clawed at him, merging with his protective instincts for Michael. Gasps echoed through the audience, and polite applause broke out momentarily, mistaking shock for celebration. Max felt rooted to the spot, trying to process the reality before him, a new family forming in front of his eyes, while he stood as an outsider. He caught sight of Michael peering through the crowd, searching for answers in his father's expression. The boy's innocence stung deeply, twisting the knife of uncertainty. The applause died down, replaced by murmurs and whispers. The soft light seemed to fade into darkness around Max as he braced himself against the reality crashing in. Sarah's smile flickered, bright but overlaid with weariness, betraying the emotional storm beneath her calm exterior. This engagement, this new world she was stepping into, it all felt so surreal. Unable to withstand the mounting emotions, he raised a hand to his face, wiping at the sweat forming on his brow. "Max?" Sarah's voice cut through the noise, drawing his attention back. Her eyes were searching, pleading. "Max, please," he didn't want to hear more. He shaped the silence into a solid wall, his mind racing like a clock winding down. "We can talk later," he said sharply, the refusal echoing in his voice. Before he could step back into the safety of the crowd, Greg interjected. "Wait. There's more I want to discuss regarding our future." Max's insides twisted tighter. The night was unraveling, and he could feel the grip of fate tightening around him. Would he be forced to confront the truths he'd avoided? In that instant, he made a choice. Whatever was coming next, he wouldn't cling to the shadows. He would fight for his family, for Michael's sake, even if it meant facing his deepest fears head-on. The moment hung heavy in the hall, vibrating with unanswered questions. Would Max find a way to navigate through this storm? As his heart raced, a new tension burst forth, ready to challenge everything he believed. "Max?" Sarah's voice lingered in the air, filled with uncertainty. Would he have the courage to speak his truth, or would he retreat once more from the shadow of their shared history? Max's throat felt tight, constricted by the rush of emotions swirling inside him. He could hardly think past the pounding in his ears, drowning out the low hum of conversation that returned to life around him. Every tentative whisper, every questioning glance weighed down on his chest like a heavy blanket. Sarah stood on the stage, vulnerable under the spotlight, and Greg continued to smile at her with an intimacy that sent waves of fury through Max. He remembered the quiet moments he shared with Sarah, the dreams they spun together, now seemingly shattered. How had it come to this? "Max, don't go." Sarah's voice trembled, reaching out to him like a fragile whisper in a tempest. She was stranded, her eyes pleading for him to come forward. There was desperation in her gaze, mingled with something else, an invitation to step back into their past, but how could he? He felt like a ghost watching a life he once held dear be laid out before strangers. The scene felt surreal, the laughter, the applause for a life they had once planned together, now hijacked by a man with a glib smile. "Max!" Michael's voice cut through the chaos. His small figure pushed through the crowd, a beacon of innocence. "Dad, what's happening?" The question landed heavily in Max's heart. His son was looking up at him, wide-eyed, searching for comfort and answers he didn't know how to provide. The weight of the moment bore down on him. He knelt, bringing himself closer to eye level with Michael. "It's complicated, buddy. Just stay close to me." Michael nodded, but didn't look convinced. The boy tugged at Max's hand, grounding him amid the chaos swirling around them. Max felt a surge of protectiveness. Michael deserved a father who could stand tall, who could navigate this mess. As he rose from the ground, the questions fired off in rapid succession in his mind. Why didn't Sarah tell him about the baby sooner? What did Greg mean by our future? Max's mind felt chaotic, and yet clarity began to form. He couldn't allow fear to dictate his path. Sarah. His voice edged through the crowd, surprising even himself. The murmurs died down momentarily as all eyes turned. Max? Sarah took a step closer to the edge of the stage, her pulse visibly quickening. I can't let this happen without having a say, he called out. I need to understand. You and Greg, what does this mean for Michael? The crowd shifted restlessly, the air electric with holding its breath. Greg glanced at Sarah, his expression a mix of enthusiasm and annoyance. Max, now's not the time. No, Max interrupted, his heart racing. The fear was still there, but determination began to rise. I deserve to hear it from her. What is going on? What does this mean for our family? For our son? His thoughts raced, each heartbeat echoing louder. The conversation belonged to them, he needed to reclaim that space. Max's gaze was locked on Sarah, searching her face with a mix of vulnerability and rage. Please, just tell me, he urged. Tell me everything. Tension thickened, wrapping around them like a noose. The silence that followed was a heavy weight, charged with expectation. Sarah opened her mouth, hesitation and pain swimming in her eyes. Max felt time freeze, teetering on the precipice of a future that was slipping through his fingers. What would she say? Admitting the truth might shatter everything, but keeping it hidden would destroy them all. Then came the moment, a decision, a revelation, held in her breath. Would she break the silence or remain trapped in their shared history? Next, he would either strengthen the bonds of their family or shatter it entirely. He stepped forward, ready to fight for the truth, ready to face whatever was coming next. But the question lingered in the air, heavy and unresolved. What was she willing to sacrifice for their little one? Would Sarah take the leap with him, or would they drift further apart? Sarah's lips parted, but no words emerged, just a choking silence thick with disbelief. The weight of the moment pressed down on everyone, the audience held captive in a collective breath held too long. Max watched her face, his heart racing as hope battled with doubt. Max, she finally whispered, glancing at Greg, as if seeking permission. I don't know where to start. Start with the truth, Max urged, the urgency in his voice palpable. The crowd stirred slightly at his intensity. Beside him, Michael's hand tightened around his own, intuitive to the shifting undercurrents of their lives. Sarah swallowed hard, her shoulders rising and falling as she steadied herself. When I found out I was pregnant, I was terrified, unsure if I could go through this alone. Max felt his heart clench. Alone? Sarah, you weren't alone. Memories unfurled in his mind, sharing dinner while the sun dipped below the horizon, laughter cutting through ordinary days. You had me. Tears glimmered in her eyes, but they were not yet falling. I thought I did. But I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't want to hurt you. Then Greg, he stepped in at the right moment. Right moment? Max's tone sharpened. Is that what you call it? Or is it just easier to lean on someone new instead of facing what we built together? The crowd collectively shifted again, Max could feel their eyes scrutinizing. There was confusion beneath the facade of understanding, and whispers began to ripple through the gathering. Max, this isn't how I wanted it to be. But I was scared. Scared of losing you and scared of raising our child in uncertainty. Sarah's voice shook as she pressed her palms against the stage, trying to steady her emotions. When Greg offered support, it felt like a safety net. Safety net? Max echoed, disbelief scraping his insides. Or a way out? You had a safety net right here with me. Dad. Michael's voice was small, tugging at Max's heartstrings. He turned to his son, those innocent eyes seeking reassurance, and felt the wind knocked out of him again. "Right," he said softly, kneeling to meet Michael's gaze. "I'm sorry, buddy. Just stay close." Sarah stepped closer, almost hesitantly, and the crowd fell silent again. Maybe they were all waiting for the catalyst, the moment that would define this chapter of their lives. "Max, I love you. That hasn't changed. But I panicked. I didn't know how to ask for help when everything started crashing down." Max felt the walls of his heart shake. "But why now? Why when we could have talked through it all before?" "It's complicated," Sarah repeated, her voice breaking. "I wanted to fix things but ended up making them worse. I should have reached out. I see that now." He closed his eyes for a brief moment, feeling the stir of emotions. "So this is how we fix it? By dragging everything out in public?" "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," she said, her eyes shimmering with tears. "But you deserve to know. And it's time my son knows the truth." Max's breath hitched as he processed her words. "So, what now?" "I need you to understand that I want to co-parent," she said, determination rising through her tears. "For Michael. For us. For all of it." Max could barely grasp the enormity of what she was saying. Every instinct fought against a shift he hadn't anticipated, a future he couldn't picture yet. But as Sarah stepped closer, he sensed a glimmer of hope, the first step toward something new, even if it meant stepping into the unknown together. Would he find a path forward, or was this truly where their family began to unravel? As the silence deepened, the tension thickened, and Max took a deep breath. Could they navigate this labyrinth together? Max stared back into Sarah's eyes, fraught with emotion, both fearful and hopeful for what awaited them both. What would they decide next? Would Sarah be willing to take that leap? And in that moment of uncertainty, everything hung in the balance, a heart-wrenching decision looming just ahead. Max's heart raced as Sarah's words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken possibilities. The world around him blurred for a moment, focusing solely on her. He could see the pain etched in her features, the delicate war between guilt and resolve that played out in her eyes. "Co-parent?" Max repeated, tasting the word like a bitter pill. "You think that's all it takes? Just agreeing to share a responsibility?" The thought ignited a flame of frustration within him. What about everything else? The love, the trust? Did all that mean nothing to you? Sarah looked away, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Max, I know," he interrupted, desperation clawing at his chest. "You don't get to gloss over this. You've been hiding, and now you want to leap into some new arrangement. How can we just pretend like this is all okay?" "Dad." Michael chimed in again, small and fragile in this storm of adult emotions. "Please, don't be mad at Mom. It's okay to be scared." Max swallowed hard, focusing on the solid warmth of his son's hand in his own. Michael was right, the frustration wasn't just at Sarah. It was the situation. It was everything spinning out of control, a whirlwind of fear and uncertainty that threatened to engulf them all. "What do we need to do?" he finally asked, his voice much softer now as he rekindled the hope for something positive. "I want us to sit down, just the three of us, and figure it out. Talk like a family should," Sarah said, her voice shaking with the weight of those words. "I don't want Michael to suffer any more than he already has." "Would that really help?" Max asked, his expression wavering between skepticism and longing. "Please," Sarah pleaded. "I need you to trust me. I want to make this right, whatever it takes." Max looked into Sarah's eyes, finding a flicker of sincerity among the tears. She wasn't trying to deflect blame anymore, she was asking for a chance to build something new, something broken yet hopeful. "I don't know if I can just jump back into trusting you," he confessed, his heart pounding. "It feels like we're standing in this giant chasm, and the only thing beneath us is uncertainty." Exactly, she said, the calm in her voice cutting through the chaos. But sometimes you need to take that leap to see what happens next. For Michael, for each other, we can't let the past keep us from trying, can we? Max took a deep breath, glancing at Michael. His son's innocent face twisted with confusion and curiosity, yearning for peace in a battle he didn't understand. I'll think about it, he murmured. But I need to know you're in this for the right reasons, Sarah. I am, she assured him, her voice steady as iron. I want to be honest. I want to fight for us, for Michael. Silence fell. The crowd's whispers faded into the background as they absorbed this unfolding scene. Max felt the weight of their gaze but focused on Sarah, feeling her heartbeat sync with his in that moment. What if we don't like what we discuss? He asked, a mix of fear and readiness bubbling to the surface. Then we figure out what that means together, Sarah responded, her resolve palpable. But I promise you, I'll be there every step of the way. Max nodded slowly, feeling a bond between them bloom amidst the wreckage. It wasn't perfect, and it definitely wasn't what he had envisioned, but maybe there was a path forward, one filled with bumps and torn edges, yet leading to something worth fighting for. As the crowd stood in stunned silence, Max's mind flickered with the thought of the future. Could they actually navigate this new terrain together? And as the curtain closed on the tense moment, one question lingered in the air: was their story just beginning, or were they destined to repeat the past? Max's heart was still racing as he left the crowded cafe. The conversation with Sarah had left him dizzy, a mix of hope and doubt swirling through his mind. His son's small hand clasped tightly in his own felt like an anchor, grounding him when everything else felt chaotic. Dad, Michael's voice broke the silence between them. Is Mom really going to try? Max glanced down at his son. He saw the flicker of uncertainty in Michael's big brown eyes. It mirrored his own feelings, but he didn't want to show that. I think she wants to, he replied carefully. But wanting isn't enough, buddy. It's gonna take a lot more than just wishes to make things right. Do you think it could work? Michael asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Max let out a breath, rubbing the back of Michael's head gently. I don't know. I really don't. But we're going to talk. The three of us. Maybe we can figure it out together. They walked in silence for a few moments, the weight of their situation pressing down on them. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the pavement. Can I say something? Michael finally ventured, his voice steady. Of course, buddy. Max wanted to encourage him, to make this a safe space for his son. I just want us all to be happy. Like before. Michael's words hit like a soft punch in the gut. Max felt a wave of guilt wash over him. How could he explain the mess of adulthood to a child who simply wanted a family? I know, Michael. I want that too. Max's voice trembled, a mix of vulnerability and determination. But sometimes we have to go through hard stuff to get to the good things, even for families. Michael nodded slowly, absorbing his father's words. Max could see the wheels turning in that little head of his, and it broke his heart to realize how much his son had to process. Can we have pizza tonight? Michael changed the subject, a hopeful spark igniting his tone. Like when we used to? A smile crept across Max's face, grateful for the simple request that connected them to better memories. Yeah, I think we can do that. They stopped at their favorite pizza place, the familiar smell of melted cheese and fresh dough wrapping around them like a warm hug. It was comforting, a small pocket of normalcy amidst the turmoil swirling in their lives. They ordered their usual, a large pepperoni to split his heart swelling with nostalgia. As they sat in their favorite booth, Michael chatted about his day, filling the air with laughter and stories. Max listened, interjecting with laughter of his own, but inside he was wrestling with the bigger questions. Just how much could he let go of the past? After dinner, they walked home, the crisp evening air brushing their faces. Michael stayed close to him, a little ball of warmth as they strolled side by side. "Dad, if Mom wants to make things right, do you think she could?" Michael asked, breaking the comfortable silence again. Max paused, looking out at the horizon where the last hues of sunlight kissed the day goodbye. "I hope so. I really do. But it's gonna be hard for all of us. We need to be strong." As they neared home, Michael let go of Max's hand and took a few steps ahead. He turned around, eyes wide with curiosity. What if she makes it worse? The question sliced through the air, sharp and cutting. Max took a deep breath, suddenly unsure how to answer. "Then we figure it out. Together. We always do, right?" "Right," Michael said slowly, but Max could see determination building in his son's expression. Arriving at their door, Max felt a knot in his stomach. Everything was about to change again, and for a flicker of a moment, he wanted to retreat. But as he opened the door, he realized this was only the beginning of their journey. Could they actually find a way forward without repeating old mistakes, or were they standing at the edge of another painful cycle? The looming question tinged the air as Max stepped inside, the warmth of home cradling him even in the uncertainty. Max stepped into the house, the familiar comforting scent of home washing over him. But tonight, it felt different. The walls seemed to vibrate with an expectancy he hadn't fully recognized until now. Michael bounced ahead, flicking on the light as he nearly collided with the couch. "Can I watch a show while you make dinner?" he asked, his excitement bursting through every word. "Sure thing," Max replied, trying to mask the swirl of thoughts in his head. He watched as Michael dashed to the living room, plopping down in front of the TV. With each noise in the kitchen, the clatter of pots, the hiss of oil simmering, Max felt the weight of responsibility settle more heavily on his shoulders. As he chopped vegetables, visions of the upcoming dinner with Sarah flooded his mind, and he couldn't shake off the sense of dread coiling deep in his gut. What if things didn't go as he hoped? What if they spiraled again into chaos? He took a breath, letting the aromas of garlic and onions distract him for a moment. Cooking was always cathartic, a way to center himself amidst the storm. No matter how uneasy his heart felt, he found solace in the rhythm of preparing a meal, a silent prayer for connection. "Dad!" Michael's voice pulled him from his thoughts, louder than the TV. "Can we make cookies too?" Max chuckled softly. "All right, let us make some cookies after dinner. How does that sound?" "Awesome." Michael did a little fist pump, then turned back to the screen, engrossed in animated chaos. After dinner, they sat around the table, their simple meal sparking conversation about everything from schoolyard antics to their favorite superheroes. "Dad, what's Mom's favorite food?" Michael's question cut through the light atmosphere. Max paused, unsure how to respond. I think she likes sushi." "Will she come over for Thanksgiving?" Michael asked innocently, his eyes filled with hope. "I don't know, buddy. We'll see how everything goes tonight," Max replied, trying to keep his own hopes guarded. They both cleared the table and set to work on the cookies. Michael's fingers were a flurry of flour and dough, eyes sparkling with joy. It was moments like this that made Max treasure their little world. Laughter bubbled forth as they formed the messy dough into shapes: bears, hearts, aliens. As they placed the cookies on the tray and slid them into the oven, Max's phone buzzed on the counter, jolting him from his playful mood. It was a text from Sarah. "I can meet tonight. Let me know where." Max felt his heart skip. The moment had come. He thumbed a reply with shaking hands, suggesting the cafe where they first met. The nervous anticipation in his stomach felt like a clenched fist. Turning back to Michael, he plastered on a smile. "How about we decorate the cookies once they're cool?" "Yeah. We can make them look like superheroes." Michael's excitement was infectious. As they waited for the timer, they gathered sprinkles, icing, and everything that could make their cookie masterpieces. The warmth in the kitchen felt like a safe harbor, but Max knew that wasn't enough to get through the evening ahead. When the timer finally buzzed, both rushed to pull the tray from the oven. The cookies had turned a perfect golden brown, but Max felt an undercurrent of anxiety thick in the air. "Dad, what will you say to Mom?" Michael asked, his tiny fingers carefully lifting a warm cookie. Max hesitated, apprehension creeping back in. "I'll just talk. Just like we did, remember? Okay. Just make her happy. Like how we are now," Michael said, his innocence grounding Max in a moment that felt overwhelmingly heavy. Max ruffled his hair and tried to exude confidence. "That's the plan, buddy." He watched as Michael devoured a cookie, oblivious to the turmoil that awaited them. As the evening wore on, he realized how intertwined hope and fear had become. They were almost inseparable. With the cookies finished, they settled down to watch a movie, the weight of uncertainty lingering in Max's mind. When the doorbell finally rang, Michael leaped to his feet. "I'll get it." Heart pounding, Max's thoughts raced. Would this connection survive what lay ahead? With a deep breath, he waited as the door creaked open. Max held his breath as Michael swung open the door, his smile bright and welcoming. But the expression on Sarah's face as she entered made the air grow heavier. There she was, standing just beyond the threshold, wearing a calm exterior that belied the storm of emotions swirling within him. "Hi," she said softly, as if testing the waters, her eyes gliding over the kitchen scattered with flour and half-eaten cookies. Michael rushed forward, arms wide open. "Mom!" he shouted, and before Max could even process the moment, she was enveloped in her son's embrace, a smile breaking across her face that instantly melted some of the tension in the room. "Hey, sweetheart," Sarah murmured, kneeling down to pull Michael closer. Max watched the two of them, the familiar warmth spreading in his chest, yet the shadow of doubt was quick to creep back in. "Hey," he managed, still standing at the kitchen counter, feeling as if he were a bystander in his own life. Michael pulled back, looking from Sarah to Max, eyes wide with anticipation. "We made cookies. Want to help decorate them?" Sarah's gaze flickered to Max, who shrugged slightly as if to say, "It's up to you." "Sure," she replied, her enthusiasm genuine as Michael led her to the dining table. As they settled into the decorating, Max tried to conjure words. The kitchen was filled with laughter, the clinking of utensils, and the soft hum of a distant movie playing. Yet, he felt isolated, an observer caught in a scene from his past. "Do you want to make a cookie shaped like a superhero?" Michael asked, offering Sarah an icing tube. "Yes. I can't wait to show you my version of Spider-Man." Sarah replied, her eyes lighting up, and for a brief moment, it was the family unit Max had always wished for. But as his heart hung on that fleeting moment, doubt settled back in. What were they truly doing here tonight? "Hey, Sarah," he finally spoke up, interrupting the cheerful banter over who could create the best Spider-Man cookie. The sound of her name off his lips drew her attention, and she paused mid-icing. "Yeah?" she asked, tilting her head slightly, the sweet smile still evident. "I know tonight is about Michael, but we need to talk. About everything." Her brow furrowed, just a flicker of tension breaking the joyous atmosphere. "Okay, I'm listening." Max's heart raced. He wanted to get it right, to be open yet gentle. "I don't want to pretend everything is perfect if it's not. There's so much we need to address, to figure out." Michael, sensing the shift, looked back and forth, his cookie decorated with blue icing halfway to his mouth, forgotten. "Can I go eat my cookie in the living room?" he asked, a sudden nervousness coloring his tone. Max nodded, trying to keep his face neutral, even as dread coiled tighter. "That sounds good, buddy. We'll be in soon." Michael dashed off, leaving behind a cloud of excitement and confusion. Sarah began, her voice carrying that careful tone, "You know I didn't come here to cause problems. I just wanted to see him. To make memories." "I know," he replied, feeling the weight of those words and the history they carried. "But we can't keep tiptoeing around each other forever." As their eyes locked, the air grew thick with memories of past filled with love and laughter, alongside heartache. "Let us just talk, okay?" she finally said, her expression softening. Max took a breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. The cookies might crumble, but sometimes, that's part of the recipe for something new. But outside, the wind picked up, rattling the windows, as if echoing the storm brewing within. "Okay," he nodded, stepping closer as he thought of all they needed to unravel. "Let us face it together." But just as they began to share those words, a loud crash outside interrupted them, jolting their focus. "What was that?" Sarah asked, stealing a concerned glance toward the window. Max's heart dropped. What other surprises awaited them tonight? He moved to the window, hoping it was just the wind. But when nothing could be seen from the glass, his anxiety spiked. "Let me check." He opened the door cautiously. His pulse racing, facing the unexpected darkness outside. What now? Max stepped outside, the cool breeze sending a shiver through him as he scanned the yard. His thoughts were still tangled in the conversation that lay ahead, but now his heartbeat thundered in his ears. He never expected to be caught in a storm, not when he was striving to navigate through emotions that felt jagged and unresolved. In the distance, a shadow shifted past the porch light. His instincts kicked in, propelling him toward the sound. "Hello?" he called out, bracing himself as he reached the edge of the yard. The night was quiet except for the rustle of leaves, creating a tension that felt almost tangible. Then it happened. A flash of light lit up his surroundings. Max turned to see a runaway bicycle tumble over in the street, the jingling of its bell piercing the silence. Relief washed over him. It was a child's bike, nothing more. But as he turned back to the threshold of his home, he heard the unmistakable sound of laughter. He stepped back inside, the warmth from the kitchen enveloping him. Sarah was bent over the table, giggling with Michael, each of them vividly decorating their superhero cookies. The bustling energy washed over him like sunlight, filling the dim corners of his heart where doubt lingered. But a flicker of something else gripped at him, the joy, the connection, all fragile yet present. "Everything okay?" Sarah glanced over her shoulder, her expression softening as she caught sight of him. She looked brighter, a mother lost in a moment she wished to preserve. "Yeah, it was just a bike," he replied, allowing himself to return to the scene. "Sorry about that, just instinct." He moved to the table, drawn closer to their warmth. Michael, with icing smeared across his cheeks, beamed up at him. "Dad, look! This is my superhero." Michael proudly showcased a perfectly decorated cookie that resembled an alien in a cape, somehow truly heroic in its own right. Max couldn't help but chuckle, the knot in his chest loosening. "That's amazing, buddy. You should really start an art class." Sarah laughed, too, her joy contagious. "I think he's already the best artist I know." Their shared laughter ricocheted through the kitchen, echoing in the air, and for a moment, they were a simple family again, free from histories that weighed them down, but he couldn't let those histories go unaddressed. They needed to confront them. "Michael, how about you watch your show while Sarah and I chat for a minute?" Michael nodded enthusiastically. "Okay, I'll be in the living room." And with that, he skipped away, leaving Max and Sarah standing in the light that felt both warm and overwhelming. Sarah started, her voice trembling slightly. "I really didn't mean to surprise you tonight. I wanted to avoid all this." "I get that," he replied, desperate to ease her worries. "But avoiding it got us here." He gestured between them, the air thick with unspoken words and lingering fears. "Then let us talk. No more hiding." She took a deep breath, steadying her resolve, and Max felt the moment shift somehow, like the start of something necessary. He looked into her eyes, finding pain and a glimmer of hope swirled together. "I need you to know that I don't want Michael to feel like he has to choose between us. I don't want him to think he's not enough." Sarah's eyes softened, pools of understanding reflecting back at him. "He is more than enough. But I made mistakes, and those mistakes shaped my choices. I was scared and it's okay, Max interrupted gently. I need you to also understand that it's not about blaming you anymore. We're in this together for him. Her expression shifted, and she nodded slowly. I want us to try. I want to figure out how to support each other, how to build this new family for Michael. The weight of her words landed heavily between them. It was an offer, perhaps a fragile kind of hope wrapped in vulnerability. Max found himself nodding, a sense of purpose crystallizing in him. And I'll need time to process everything, but if you're committed to working through this, I'm willing to. She stepped closer, her voice a whisper. I am committed, Max. I don't want our past to keep holding us hostage. For the first time in what felt like forever, something shifted in the air. Like a fragile cord strumming between them, weaving a promise they both desperately needed to hear. They could forge a new path. Just then, Michael returned, skidding to a stop. What are you two talking about? Just coming up with a plan, Max said, searching for the right words, and Sarah grabbed an icing tube to keep the mood light. Can I help with the plan? Michael asked, beaming with excitement. Absolutely. Max exclaimed, feeling buoyed by the presence of his son. How about you use your superpowers to help us build the best family cookie ever? The three of them leaned into the table, laughter flowing through them like a river carving a new course. There would be challenges ahead, clarifications needed about their roles, fears that would arise again, but together, they had a shot to make it strong despite the tremors of uncertainty. Max felt lighter than he had in ages. The night was still young, and so was their journey. They had reshaped the chaos into a moment that ignited hope, and as they decorated cookies and spoke about anything and everything, Max realized he wouldn't have to navigate this storm alone. They were a family, ready to embrace whatever awaited them. Let this mark the beginning of their new adventure, one that sought connection, love, and rebuilding. As they savored each sweet moment together, now more than ever, they needed to move forward. And they were going to do it as a team. Remember, this is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.